Hiya folks, you're really welcome along to this week's episode of John's Garage. This week we have three different things to discuss. We're first of all going to be talking about Nissan Almiras, we're second of all going to talk about first cars, and thirdly we're going to talk endangered species. So come along and we'll jump right into it after this. Okay folks, before we jump right into it, okay, I need you to click that subscribe button, the like button, the share button, and let this video flow and let people see it, and make sure to let me know you're enjoying the channel, okay? Now, this week we have a 2001 Nissan Almira to have a look at. Now, this is the second generation of the Nissan Almira. The first generation was launched here in Ireland in 1995, 96, I think it was 1996, sorry, March 1996. That's when the first generation came out. That lasted all the way up until January 2000 when the second generation arrived, which is this particular model, and this is a 2001 example. These were facelifted then again in 2003, and they continued on until officially made and sold until 2007, although there was a couple snuck in under the new emissions ban in 2008. There was a handful registered here in Ireland. The most popular variant of these in Ireland to be sold was this model, the Saloon. There was also a 5-door hatchback and so on and so forth, but that didn't really feature here in Ireland because we're quite conservative. We love our old 3-box saloons. This particular one was a huge selling example. Now, one of these almost became my first car. So I live literally a stone's throw from a Toyota dealership and a Nissan dealership, and these were everywhere back in the day, and they were cheap and they were supposedly reliable, okay? So I almost bought one of these. In the end, I actually went with a Toyota Avensis as my first car. How bland is that? But anyway, I love the Avensis. I still love the Avensis, okay? So this car is the current owner's first car. They bought it when they were 17. They got it for 100 quid. It was almost about to be scrapped. And they took it for a drive and realized, hey, this is actually a really good car under here. It's currently sitting on about 175,000 miles, of which they've added 15, okay? So they got it with 160,000 miles. Now, over that time, they've decided, in partnership with their father, to, I suppose, expand their mechanical skills. And they've come across a couple of the classic reasons these particular cars end up off the road and end up being scrapped. Number one, gearbox. So the gearbox needed to be replaced. Number two, the timing chain went in the stretched on the engine, so that needed to be replaced. And number three, there was actually another issue. The engine started burning oil, although I don't believe that's a common issue with these engines, okay? But luckily, they had access to all the different parts and they were able to do the work themselves in conjunction with their very helpful father, okay? So fathers are great for that kind of thing. They can show us the ways and means. But this is their first car. Now, I asked them, why a Nissan Almira? Why did you go with a Nissan Almira first? What drew your attention to this car? Was it the lovely curvaceous styling, the soft interior, the lovely long list of optional extras that these came with from new? And no, it was necessity apparently. This was not their first car of choice. The first car of choice was actually a 2004 Nissan Punto. But when they rang up to get insurance, well, you know the story, guys. This is Ireland. Their insurance was going to cost, I think they told me, €9,500. Even the lady from AXA was laughing at the other end of the phone when that quote came up. So necessity deemed that they needed to find something else that was well built, reliable and cheap to insure. And that's a top tip for a lot of people I know watching this channel are probably in the age range where you have teenage sons and daughters and you're looking at getting them cars. Don't go for the obvious choice, the 1-litre Yaris and stuff like that. Look beyond that at slightly bigger cars, because you often find, and that's the reason why I went with the insurance, or with the Avensis, is the insurance is far, far cheaper on them. I don't know, it's a quirk of the system, but anyway, that's why this owner ended up with this. The insurance was just a minuscule amount of money compared to the €9,500 quote that they were given for the Punto. Anyway, what else can I tell you about this particular car? It has the 1.5-litre engine, which was the most common engine available in Ireland. I think it was the only engine apart from the slight offering of a diesel, if I'm not mistaken, at one stage. But anyway, the 1.5-litre in this particular example is producing 90 horsepower. In 2003, it was kind of renewed and refreshed and revitalized and given a spurt of energy, and they got it up to 105 horsepower. Huge selling car in Ireland back at the time. However, that engine size, the 1.5 litre, counted against this car majorly here in Ireland because it put it in a higher tax band and made it much more expensive over a 1.3 litre or 1.4. 1.4 was the most common. Now I know, folks, this sounds like I'm splitting hairs here with 1.3, 1.4 and 1.5, but the difference was huge back in the day, okay, to tax one of these for 12 months. So much so, the people Even if it cost a couple of €100 only extra for the slightly higher tax variant, they would always go with the lower tax band. And it used to break my heart, especially when it came to competitors to this car like the Mazda 323. The 1.3 in that was dog slow, more uneconomical, cost far more to run than the 1.5. And the 1.5 made the car feel nice and sprightly and lively and so on and so forth. The Ford Focus was another classic example of that fell foul to this. They had a dog slow 1.4 litre engine in it. I think it produced about 70 horsepower, something like that. Everybody bought the 1.4 and it made a lovely car horrible, really slow. Similar enough with the Volkswagen Golf and the 1.4 litre 8 valve in those. Dog slow, not a nice engine, heavy on fuel, but everybody bought it because it was cheaper to tax. Simple as that. Anyway, I'm ranting. So back to the Nissan Almira. What else has the owner done? Well, it's the first car, so they want to love it, they want to look after it, so they have given it a full respray. And I actually have to say the quality of the respray is really, really good. There's no flecks in the paint, there's no runs, there's no nothing. I actually would have thought this was a factory fresh job had I not known, and that had just been really well cared for. But no, they've loved on this car quite a bit. So we have the gearbox, the engine and the bodywork is sorted. Pretty much the three classic areas that took these Nissan Almiras off the road. Gearbox failing, timing chain stretching, and rust. None of which is present on this particular example, I'm delighted to say, and the interior has held up really well. Now, you might be looking over there and saying, they're not the original alloys, and they would not be the original alloys. They are a particular set of alloys that fit the particular set of Nissan Almiras which we have here in front of us, and they also fit Mitsubishis and Nissans all the way back to the 80s. The owner told me what it was. I think it was 14.11 fitment or something like that. But anyway, that's why those alloys are on it. And to be fair, I actually think they're a nice little addition. I'm not a huge fan of those type of alloys, but I think they suit the car. They give it a little bit of a quirk, and it helps the owner to make it their own. Other than that, let's jump on in and have a little look at the interior, and we'll chat a little bit about why these are on the endangered list for me. Let's go. You're very welcome to the interior of the Nissan Almira, okay? So, I kind of mentioned before we came in here that we're going to talk about why these are on what I call my endangered list. These are on the endangered list because these used to be absolutely everywhere, and now they're gone. Especially a clean one like this is really, really hard to find. And I suppose the point I wanted to make about that is that when I was 17, this was almost my first car, okay? I looked at these were brand new, they were selling well, they looked great, I thought, nice and curvy, good substantial looking car. I could fit 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 mates in the back on a Saturday night, so to me it seemed like a great deal. However, they're gone. Nice clean examples of these are gone, they're hard to find, but they are still out there, and this is the thing. You can still find low mileage, original examples of this car, and now is the time to do it. There is no point in coming back in 5 years' time and saying, God, I'd love one of them. Buy it now. You buy them for a couple of £100. They're not expensive. Parts are dirt cheap. It's easy to get people to work on them. But again, in 5 years' time, I do not think these cars will be here. They'll be gone. They'll be replaced by electrics. They'll be forced off the road. Somebody will do something to get rid of them. But anyway, that's why they're on my endangered list. But number two, the second point I wanted to make was first cars. For a lot of the viewers, because I can see by the age profile of people who watch the channel, this probably was a car you considered as your first car. And again, in 5 years' time, you're going to say, God, I love my first car again. But they're all gone. So don't wait until they're all gone. Grab a clean example now while you can. Now, this doesn't just necessarily hold true for the Nissan Almira. It's pretty much any car of the late 90s to early 2000s. They're the cars right now which are going off the road, never to be seen again. They're going to be pulped up and sent to China and remanufactured into something, a tin of Coke or something, I don't know. But anyway, that's what's happening in those cars. If you want to rescue one, don't be saying, I'll do it. Do it now, okay? Do it now is what I'll say to you. Anyway, let's have a little look at the Nissan Almira interior. Now, these were really well spec'd for the day. I know some of this stuff is going to seem a little bit laughable now, but this was pretty good back in the day. You have up here in the ceiling a sunglasses holder. You have nice little storage pockets here, makes the car nice and practical. Now the owner has replaced the original head unit with a Kenwood example. That's fine, but they also came with that nice built-in radio, which was unusual back in the time. What else do we have? We don't have air conditioning in this particular model, but if I'm not mistaken, with the refresh in 2003, air conditioning did get fitted as standard, as well as this big bulky looking screen up here. The owner has also fitted these particular glass holders or cup holders. I'll talk to you about that in just a second, why I'm pointing that out. We also have steering wheel controls here for the radio. We have rev counter, we have electric windows, we have central locking, and so on and so forth. We have electric mirrors. Now, and fog lights. This all seems a little bit laughable right now, but in this particular class of car, this was all unusual. If you went to a Toyota Corolla, you could still get windy up windows if you so wished. Now, there is windy up windows in the back, but there's also this lovely soft finish to the seats, and they're actually really, really comfortable. You also have a little bit extra storage here, and of course that 5-speed gearbox that likes to grenade itself. Pulling this down here, nice big vanity mirror, and so on and so forth, a headrest and an armrest in the back. But in this classic car, this was all unusual. Now, one interesting fact I will point out about the Nissan Almira, this was a massive selling car in Russia. It's probably what sustained the car so long into its life that it kept going because Russian buyers demanded it. And of course, Irish buyers being a discerning choice of people who liked a boring saloon car, myself included, I have to admit. So what else can I tell you about the car? Well, there is something the owner tells me. Now, I haven't fact-checked this, so I'm just going to tell you what the owner has told me. They tell me that the local Nissan dealership who sold this new, which is Donal Ryan's and Nina, which is still there and still selling Nissans for the bucket load, they told the owner that this isn't actually a Sunderland-built car, which I found unusual, because all the examples that are supposed to be sold new in Europe were meant to be built in the factory in Sunderland. The factory in Sunderland is still there. It's churning out Dukes and it's churning out Leaves, the electric car. It's turning them out goodo at the minute, okay? However, they say this isn't actually built there. This particular car, for whatever reason, is actually from, wait for it, Japan. Okay, this actually came from the Japanese factory. Now, I pointed out the drinks holder down here and said I'll come to a point about this in a minute. The owner has retrofitted that, as well as a number of other different items to the car. They also told me that when they have a second one of these for taking parts off of, which was a Sunderland car, and when they had the two of them up on a ramp side by side, they got in under and they actually noticed several differences between the two. Now, I can't fact check that. I haven't found anything online about it, and as I say, I'm going to take the owner at their word, but they say it's the local dealership pointed this out to them when they had a couple of questions about what they were seeing and parts and stuff that they needed. They were slightly different. Anyway, that's pretty much it. So what I think I'm going to do is we're going to mount the camera, we'll go for a drive and we'll have another little bit of a chat. Okay, for those having a nostalgia trip right now, because that's exactly what I am having, these were, as I say, pretty popular back in the day. They were insurance friendly. They were considered reliable. Now I'm going to get to that considered reliable bit, so let's talk about it. This particular Almira, this generation of Almira, was jointly designed by Renault, and some say the quality took a massive dive. So the Sunny that came before this, the Almira that came before this was always kind of considered to be the superior car. Now, I don't think there's anything particularly wrong with this car. It feels really well. It's worn its miles very, very well. It's good, it's comfortable. As I say, everything in here works exactly as you'd expect in a Japanese car. So I don't know. The gearbox, the engine, yeah, I've spoken about those, but they were Nissan units. They actually weren't the Renault units. The Renault unit came later in 2003 with the facelift, where you got the 1.6 VVTi. Sorry folks if there's a little rattle there, unfortunately. It's the mount on the camera, just to point it out to you. Mount on the camera, and I'll explain why. So, the size of this car really sloped in, just part of its curvy design, which was popular back in the day. It was always an issue though I had with the car, was the top of the roof here tapered in so much that it used to always kind of hit my head, and always made me feel a little bit claustrophobic, like the roof was way nearer to me than it needed to be. And that's why I can't mount the camera any better, because the angle is so steep that if I try and mount it, as you can see, it's probably cut my head off right now. It's as high as I can go with it because of that steep taper. Anyway, what's it like to drive? I have to say, it's quite what you'd expect from a Japanese car of the era, or Franco-Japanese as I should say. It drives pretty well, it's pretty sprightly. I wouldn't say it's as nice to drive as the 1.5 litre Mazda 323. I always found it just had a nice little edge to it. I feel like I'm 17 again, I've just stole the car. Anyway, why did I say that? I could have gotten away with that and you wouldn't have known because it's so quiet. There we go. Hey, there's one of our competitors, a Ford Focus Saloon Ghia model. Ooh, that would have a 1.6 litre engine, and that cured all the problems in the 1.4 because it was actually quite a nice engine to drive. Anyway, lots of revs. There's a little bit of torque in this. It's not too bad, you know, as these kind of cars go. I can certainly say it will put a Golf in its place. It will put... Just figuring out what's going on up here. Could anything from Peugeot in this place, Peugeot, Citroen, the 1.4 and those dog slow. Fiat, no, I think the Fiat would have an edge on it maybe. Driving wise anyway, the 1.4 litre 16 valve. The Corolla, again offered in Ireland, that was VVTi at that stage, that was a nice engine. Anything from MGR of course came with that beautiful K-series engine, which had many powers. This is annoying me folks, I'm just going to try and see if I can do a little bit better there now. Yeah, the Rover unit, the K-series, 1.4 litre. Oh, actually it's not my kit, it's actually the door is rattling. Damn you, I thought it was my kit was rattling. Anyway, we'll continue on. There's going to be a little rattle, there's nothing I can do about it folks. What else do we have in here? So everything falls nicely to hand, everything is light to touch, everything is worn really well. This plastic steering wheel, although I thought it was leather when I first looked at it, was actually nicely shaped plastic steering wheel is there. What else did these cars have? Well, originally when the Almira was launched, it came with a driver's airbag. This later Mark II version obviously comes with a couple of more airbags, but the owner tells me it's missing two things, and it has an occasion at times to lock up the wheels. So it's missing ABS, it's missing traction control, it's missing all of that kind of thing. But I think as the cars get older, that's nearly a good thing. Less to go wrong basically. As I say, it doesn't have air conditioning, it does have a fan door and all that as you would fully expect. Electric windows all around, pretty much everything works. It's actually a really nice car. Now, my first car, I looked at one of these, I didn't go when I actually really wanted a Mazda 323 and 1.5 litre engine, but I ended up going with a Avensis 1.6, and that's back to insurance. The insurance was cheap. All of these class of cars, they tend to be cheap. Now, why are they cheap, I hear you saying? Because of the age profile of the drivers, and to be honest about it, these were generally bought by older, conservative buyers who never really rallied them, never really drove them hard, but that made them crack and buy second hand, because it meant you were getting a car, hadn't been rallied, hadn't been abused, hadn't been serviced or looked after, and then you got a good car. So that's kind of it really folks for us this week. There's not much else to tell. It is a nice car, but what I would make an appeal to you is, cars that you're looking at right now and you're saying it's just an old car, it's just an old banger, they're tomorrow's classics, they're tomorrow's desirable cars. And the other thing to note is, here in Ireland anyway at least, it tends to be cars like this at car shows and cars and coffee that people flood up to, and not quite this particular one at this particular age, but cars like this. Like if I saw a 1994 Nissan Sunny at Cars and Coffee, I'd be straight over to have a look at it, because it's something I don't get to see and I would have seen every day as I was growing up. So that's what I'd say to you folks, grab these cars right now while you can, because they're very quickly going to disappear off our roads, and then all we'll have is memories and should-haves and would-haves and could-haves, but we won't have the cars, okay? And that's it. That's why I suppose my own little personal collection is made up of, I call it the unloved or unwanted generation of cars. They're not old enough to be classic, they're not new enough to be usable. Well, this is perfectly usable to be honest. But yeah, that's kind of it folks. So anyway, listen, I don't want to end this on a sad note. I'm really delighted the owner gave me an opportunity to take out their pride and enjoy. They've had the car for, they said 5 years now at this stage. It's been a pleasure to own, it's been a pleasure to learn on apparently, it's been a pleasure for them to work on and to make it their own, and that's what they have done. They've made this car their own, they've enjoyed it, and I really think that's what first cars should be, is having fun, getting under the bonnet, getting I suppose intimate with the car, getting to know it and working on it and making it your own. And you know what? It stands to the owner in the long run, because they learn to respect the car, they learn the value of the car, and unfortunately that's kind of lost on a lot of people these days. Anyway, kudos to the owner for bringing me in. Thank you very much to them for letting me drive it. Really happy to be here, and yeah, we'll talk again soon folks. Bye bye.